So I run shows up spray foam. I created shows up spray foam as an option for everybody who owns a lake home, really. I mean, so for me, I have the opportunity to allow you to be back in your home by the end of your workday. I do a lot of crawl spaces and stuff where people go to work, they work an 8-hour shift, they come home and they're allowed to go back inside their house, everything's insulated, you ain't gotta worry about it. And I'm not making you stay out of your house for 12 to 24 extra hours. Most people who run a spray foam business have a very longevitous time where you have to stay out and away from the off gas. For me, I've done it as something where the homeowner doesn't have to be gone all the time. That's very, for me, that's impertinent towards what you want to do. You know, you don't want to show up to a job like, well, you want to stay gone for 2 days? You want to stay gone from the house for 2 days? That don't sound fun to nobody. So for me, I've gotten it set up to where not only do I offer a very competitive price compared to everybody else, but I give you competitive timing and rates and everything else to where, you know, you're not gone for 2 days, you're not vacating the whole premises for 12 hours, you know, it's just, it allows you to be back inside of your home and comfortable by the end of the day. And you're insulated at that point. So with an average of like a 3 to 4 year payback on whether you just do one side of your house, say you just do the crawl space, or say you just do your attic. On average, the payback for spray foam is about 3 to 5 years on that. That's only doing one spot. Now, say you do your attic and your crawl space, your payback on that is an average of 1 to 3 years. I did a big building for a guy. It's a 60 by 68 by 14, really big building. He runs 2 split pumps in there. And a couple weeks ago, when we had that real high heat and everything, he's running at $113 a month electric bill and keeping that place comfortable at 70 degrees with 2 split pumps, just because there's spray foam on everything. And he only ran 2 inches of spray foam. A lot of people don't understand the R value difference between spray foam compared to regular back insulation. Okay, back insulation, it's going to degrade below 20 degrees Fahrenheit. So as soon as the weather outside drops and the wind starts pushing in against your walls and everything, your regular back insulation is going to start to diminish in its own R value. Now, whenever you run spray foam, it allows you to have an impermeable air barrier and a moisture barrier both. So with that being said, you don't lose your R value. At 2 inches, you run a solid R14. R14 is something that most people don't ever think about, but your average bat is R13. Your average bat is R13. Everyone insulates their houses with R13, but it's cost effective, right? Well, why not be cost effective and insulate your house with something that's going to be worth it? It's going to last 70 plus years. It's not going to degrade in 25 years. And it allows you to be comfortable inside your own home. I mean, for new builds, like Quran, for instance, I'm working with a friend of his, and I'm about to do a new build for him. And whenever I go in and I spray all these open walls and open cavities and whatnot, if you have real bad allergies all the time and stuff like that, you no longer get that pollen coming in through your walls. You don't get all that harsh air from the outside coming in all the time. So, like for me, I grew up with people on ventilators that were all my older parents, grandparents, and stuff like that. So inside of my brain, for someone like that, I think that would be very optionable. It'd be very beneficial to anybody who has a breathing issue, who has allergies, and that sort of stuff. And then the biggest thing to it is I can spray anything anywhere. I go more places than anybody else does. So when you run a high pressure system, you've got like 1500 psi running in the back of your gun up to your gun. So whenever you go to bend 3 cables that's got 1500 psi, and they don't bend very easily. Well, I just did a crawl space about 2 months ago that was only about 11.5 inches to the bottom of the rafters. So for me, fitting in there was easier than anybody else with a full size gun and stuff like that, because not only do they got stiffer hoses and lines and a secondary manifold on the back of their gun, but they just can't comfortably fit in there with their gun and spray. I mean, and then once they're gone, you know, then you got to wait an extra 12 hours because they ran everything with high pressure and everything got atomized and broke down to the point where all these gases just start expanding and going everywhere. So now you have all this off gassing moving around and whatnot, and it's causing, not only is it causing, you know, asphyxiation for the person who's doing the spraying, where you constantly have to have fresh air. You constantly have to make sure you're covered. For me, I don't run any fresh air. I don't run an extra hose, nothing. I run acid gas canisters because I'm allowed to. I don't have all the secondary PPE coverage that they gotta have and stuff like that. And then on top of it, you know, I run a foam that I'm an environment person. I grew up on a farm, so for me, I like to kind of be environmentally positive. So I run a foam that's got, you know, low global warming problems. So my off gas is actually more natural than any other off gas coming from anybody else. So for me, when I go in and I spray your stuff, I know not only are you gonna get something that's not gonna degrade in 20 years, but you're also gonna have something that's, more beneficial to everybody else. I mean, not only are you saving on energy costs, not only are you, being more comfortable inside your home, but you're ensuring, your structure stability and everything else. On that 2 inches, I mean, I have all my certifications and stuff for my phone and whatnot, and at 2 inches, it adds 200% cell structure, which means, say, I do a lot of old garages for people who it leaks on their old car and stuff like that. So say I go to an old garage, they got old nasty wood and whatnot, I'll just go ahead and spray it over because they won't have an issue with it for at least, 10, 15, 20 years. Because basically spray foam is glue. You're basically gluing something together, creating an R value inside of it. And that's the easiest way for me to break it down for everybody to understand simply. And whenever you get into working with other people, everyone else, they like to run to where they got a minimum, they get $1,000 just to show up. And starting up a high pressure rig is expensive. I mean, you've got to sit there and calculate everything. I mean, for me, my setup is about 20 minutes, and the average high pressure rig is about an hour to an hour and a half. So not only am I more efficient in time handling, but I'm also able to clean up twice as fast. So like, say I'm blocking your driveway and you're ready to come home, well, I'm gonna be out of your way in 30 minutes compared to someone else shutting everything down, making sure everything's shut down properly, and that sort of ordeal. So for me, not only is it something that allows you to be eco-friendly and save on your own bills, but it allows you to be able, as a homeowner, to feel, comfortable that you got something that's not going to degrade. I mean, that's one thing as for someone like me, I bought my first place when I was 20. So, and I did everything as simple as possible, and I paid for it about 2 years later. So now, whenever I go towards doing something, I would make sure I take the extra step to ensure I don't have that worry later on. Like, I don't want to worry, in 3 years because I didn't insulate the bottom of my house well enough that's going to be cold. I don't like that worry. I want something that I use as an investment. I'm young, so for me, if I'm going to build something, I'm going to make it as an investment to where it's going to last at least my lifetime. And that for me is something that spray foam allows people to do. Because once again, you've got at least 70 years before spray foam was supposed to try and degrade. It's a plastic. It is sprayed polyurethane foam. That is what it stands for, SPF. And polyurethane part of the saying that it's plastic insulation. Now, do I push more closed cell than open cell? Yes. We live in a climate zone that a lot of people don't take into factor. And for me, not taking into factor climate zone and stuff like that really does affect how people do foam. I know a lot of other companies around here, they always push off for going for open cell. Open cell is nice, it is. It doesn't give you structural support, it doesn't give you a solid R value, it allows water to leak through if you ever have a leak. It's half the R value, there's no structural support with it really. So for me, I try and avoid running any open cell unless it's on top of someone's working garage. Which if it's on top of your working garage, then the benefit to that is you're not going to hear all the rain. Closed cell will transfer through all the hard thudding and burning on the metal building compared to open cell, which is a big sound deadener. Now, that being said, I do buildings as what I call a hybrid, which is where I'll spray 1 inch of closed cell, and then I'll go back in and I'll spray open cell all the way around everything else, just because they're getting the 1 inch of closed cell as a moisture barrier, a vapor barrier, and a wind barrier. And then you're getting the open cell at a cheaper rate to improve your R value you've already got. So at that point, it allows for some people doing bigger buildings, bigger shops, that sort of stuff, to be more in budget with what they want to do, how they want to finish their place, and still have a decent R value.
Questions? But I found it very interesting when he came over. I thought he was probably the most educated call guy I ever. I was kind of, if you don't make it too long, but tell everybody a little bit about why you decided to start your own business.
Okay, so I decided to start my own business because, for one, it's not enjoyable working for someone every day of your life. Okay, I got tired of getting implemented that, okay, well, I need Tuesday off because I got a dentist appointment. Okay, well, then I become the bad guy because not only am I missing work, but then, I'm missing hours on a check and stuff like that. So about a year and a half ago, I really broke down real hard and decided I wanted to find something that was different, something, not everybody else did, something new. And spray foam was one of the things where we don't have a huge economy for it down here yet. So for me, I decided to get into a side of it that was a little bit more newer than everybody else's, to where I could be a little bit more advanced than what everyone else is. Allow people all the options I can allow compared to someone else. So I spent a long time researching and figuring out what phone I wanted to use, what machines I wanted to use, and that sort of stuff. So for me, it kind of broke down to just kind of not so much really being my own boss, but you know, if I have stuff scheduled out, I can go ahead and I can take a day off and schedule something else for myself, and I can have personal time, because I don't like working for someone and not having personal time. That's my big push to where I started. And I had everyone whenever I first started this business going, well, do you expect you're gonna make $1 million in 6 months? I'm sitting there going, no, 6 months, I went dead. So that's about how that broke down. I didn't go towards making $1 million right off the bat or nothing like that. I just enjoyed it for myself to provide something that no one else does. Because anymore, we live in a world where if someone works for you, they just do their job and go home. Me as a business owner, being the only person that really shows up on site 90% of the time, and I run my own machine by myself and everything, I know with me being there, I'm going to give you 110% like I would want. Because, and this comes from a long line of working for everybody else. I mean, I built commercial size boat docks for 7 years. I made a killing. I mean, I built boat docks for 500 foot long, 200 foot wide, 30 foot tall. Made money hand over fist for a long time doing that. And I just kind of ended up not enjoying working with someone that when this guy's next to you and he can tighten a bolt half as well as you can, he gets the same paycheck. That's not fun. I'm real big on being fair on everything because I grew up working my whole life. I grew up on a farm. I didn't have a choice. So for me, working, if you're going to do it once. Why would you do it twice? You know, and then I have issues where now I go to these spots and these people are like, well, I got this spray foam, and you know, I walk over to something that someone else sprayed foam. I'm like, well, we paid for 2 inches. So I go grab my depth gauge. I'm like, okay, you got an inch. Well, no one ever stops to think about that because guess what? Everyone else just has people that work underneath them and they're just coming in, showing up, spraying a job and going home. That's all they want to do. They don't want to do nothing else. They don't like to paycheck on Friday because yeah, if you spray foam for someone, you make good money. It's one of the most highest paid industries next to being a roofer or even, you know, building giant trades. So for me, if I can give something that I know is going to be my best every time, then I feel that later on down the road, I'm not ever going to have any issues. You know, I try and keep it fair for everybody. I'm not here to gouge everybody on prices. It's kind of one of the things where for the people who can't go out and just want and afford everything they want to afford because all these big companies, they got a minimum and they got, and so they're there 3 months out or something like that. No, I'll work overnight. You know me coming in and spraying, you know, like I've got Taboo and Laura, they want me to go in and spray their roof. Okay, so for me, I told them, I was like, I'm just fine with coming in once you guys close down. Because once they close down overnight, I can go up in the roof, I can spray the roof, and they can open back up the next morning without a problem. No issue, no complications. They just go in, they assume their day is you know, back to making money the next day. You're not shut down for 12 to 24 hours. There's a new bait shop that just got sprayed in Lori, and this is a perfect example. They sprayed it, no one touched that building for 2 days. They left it completely open and no one touched it for 2 days, so everything got cured. That's not only is that slowing down the next people in line, but that's slowing down you as getting into like building your office space, whatever it is. That slows you down too. So for me, if I can do something that's time effective, cost effective, and will last, I think it's a great option to keep on going with because that's where I come from. I don't want to do something that ain't gonna last. I'm here for the longevity of it, so I like everything else to be that way too. Yes, sir.
How does that affect the moisture level in the house? Because the houses are built great, so you don't get the moisture in the building. And when you do the close out spray on the ceiling and stuff, how does that affect that?
Okay, so that affects it as deciding what you want to do. So what you're questioning is doing a fully sealed envelope. I do a lot of either just a roof or just an attic usually, so that allows for people to not have as many issues with what you're talking about. Now, when I do go in and I do like a sealed envelope on, say, someone's crawl space, I'll go in and I'll vapor barrier the whole crawl space and I'll do the whole entire set of walls and the ceiling. Now, when I leave, I go ahead and I charge you to go ahead and put in a dehumidifier because I learned that from HVAC. HVAC always wants you to put in a dehumidifier at a time to seal an envelope, just due to the simple fact of where we live. And then HVAC themselves, once they come in and they put something in, they'll put in another fire. So I do a lot of HVAC being put underneath houses. And that's where I come in and run into a lot of sealed envelopes, and you kind of have to use a dehumidifier. Otherwise, you're not wrong. That's why they run open cell, is because open cell does allow stuff to still breathe and water come in and out. Now, the downfall that everyone thinks open cell will do for you is if you do have a leak, it's just going to run right through the open cell and you're going to be able to see it. No, it don't work that way. It's unless you have a really massive leak, the saturation time is going to be there. You're going to have water running down and everything else. I mean, when it comes down to doing something like that, it would be, you're going to want to go ahead and seal everything. So like I'm redoing a insurance job over at Osage here in a couple of weeks, and I'm doing 3 rooms, but I'm only going in, and because of, like you just discussed, I'm only doing the top of the rooms. So I'm going to walk through the rafters and I'm going to spray down on the top of the rooms themselves to seal them off from the attic air, because they have no insulation left. These people's roof fell in and stuff like that. So I'm about to go and do the insurance on that, and that's kind of the same idea, because that's what I told them. I was like, well, what do you want me to spray? Because when I first showed up at the job, it didn't make sense. It sounded like they wanted me to spray the back of the roof. And that's not an issue, but that's only open cell. They could call me closed cell. So when I go and I put in closed cell, I'll put in closed cell just over the roof. So that way you don't have that moisture issue of moisture not being able to travel up or travel down and move in and out.
When you say over, you're talking over the ceiling.
Yeah, so basically it'd be like on the other side of this roof. It'd be the top side.
It'd be outside of the ceiling.
Yep. And then for open cell, I do open cell on most old renovations and stuff like that, just because open cell allows your roof to have that breathability on an older roof. It allows it to flex a little bit and have some give to it. That really is kind of good for older homes. And then now, one thing I have not experienced having an issue with yet is sealing the main system of a house. So I go in and I've been getting calls here lately about all these guys who have older houses, old hardwood, and they can't get a staple into it, so they're not going to be able to hold bad insulation or anything like that. And I get calls from those guys, and I haven't had an issue with those yet. So as far as humidity coming in and out, once I spray closed cell, it creates no very moisture, it's letting the thing in and out. The only moisture you could have is trying to come up either through your floor, which once again, I mean, most people are insulated to where that don't really become an issue. But no, I haven't had any moisture issues so far. I'm kind of picky about that stuff too. Yes, sir.
First of all, love the name because in this area, it means people show up as half battle.
Yeah.
Shows up as a great name.
Where it came from.
So the question is, you mentioned Oregon and OC Beach. What's your area? Are you just focus on Canyon County?
No, I'll go all through Missouri. I've got like 4 or 5 people already that are calling me from like Indiana, Ohio, Arkansas. So it's pretty well, as long as someone wants to pay for the job and it's a decent enough size job, I'll do it. Anything within Missouri is feasible for me. I'm contracted with the builders out in for sales and all the house builders and stuff like that, just so they have an easier access to something like me. So I'll go anywhere really. I mean, as long as it's not crazy and you're willing to pay for it, I'll go just about anywhere, because expenses do kick up once you start going so far away.
Pretty much one man show right now.
Yep.
Are you planning on expanding and hiring employees or?
I probably won't expand for at least another 2 years, just because I have an issue trusting someone to run something like that, because just my equipment alone that you have to set up and start running is like $45,000. And if you back purge it and blow the phone backwards through everything, it can cost me $45,000. So up until I get to a point where I've got jobs just lined up and I can teach somebody constantly, or have them, hang out with me, or get people even show up for 2 weeks, that'd be amazing.
Yeah, that's kind of why I asked you. You really something else to work your stuff.
Talk about the installation value a lot, and I believe buddy of mine collects electrical cars, and here the last spring had his metal building, it's like 32 by 3, something like that. He's got all the fiberglass installation, and spray foam, and he heats the building with an LP tank, and it comes to the typically look for 500 gallon of heat, keep the building temperate.
Yeah.
He said last winter, he burned less than 100 gallons. The big difference that I noticed, like a little place called Hector's Rule.
I know that.
He's got some duties, but anyway, you go inside the building, and it's like you're being in a recording studio, or the booth rack microphone is absolutely silent.
Yep. And that comes from, a lot of people don't really understand that. As hard as you want to do to perfect the outside of a building, you will never stop the air from pushing it somewhere, some way, some shape or form. And that's where something like closed cell comes in, and it just fills every gap you have. I mean, when you go in and you do all your wall cavities and all your roof and everything like that, you're basically sealing your whole entire building out from the outside world, so you'll never have those issues again. It's kind of funny you bring that up, because I actually just sprayed her garage because this old lady had a black car, and she got tired of washing it and coming back, and the humidity from the ceiling and whatnot would drip down on her car. That's open garage, you know, so like morning humidity and everything gets dropped on top of her car and whatnot like that. And I just sprayed it, she ain't had an issue since. I mean, I just posted that one on my page here about a week or 2 ago. And that's only at an inch, and it makes 13-degree difference in an open building and direct sunlight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You do,